I looked at it on Facebook and I read the speech and I'm trying to find out what is the commitment to real.
Be a part of the debate.
What he needs to do is to allow the people to do their work in accordance with the relevant legislation, and he must not overreach, because when he makes those suggestions, he is in a sense misleading the population here.
Speak your mind. Defend your country. Call in. Numbers to call: 869-669-7312. That's 869-669-7312 or 917-460-2187. That's 917-460-2187. On target here on 2020 Vision Radio every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. On target. Be a part of it. On target.
So I'm your host, Kelvin Daly, and I thank you for joining us once again.
Join the conversation.
I looked at it on Facebook and I read the speech and I'm trying to find out what is the commitment to renal failure in Nevis, and I'm yet to find it.
Be a part of the debate.
What he needs to do is to allow the people to do their work in accordance with the relevant legislation, and he must not overreach, because when he makes those suggestions, he is in a sense misleading the population here.
Speak your mind. Defend your country. Call in. Numbers to call: 869-669-7312. That's 869-669-7312 or 917-460-2187. That's 917-460-2187. On target here on 2020 Vision Radio every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. On target. Be a part of it. On target.
So I'm your host, Kelvin Daly, and I thank you for joining us once again.
Join the conversation.
I looked at it on Facebook and I read the speech and I'm trying to find out what is the commitment to renal failure in Nevis, and I'm yet to find it.
Be a part of the debate.
What he needs to do is to allow the people to do their work in accordance with the relevant legislation, and he must not overreach, because when he makes those suggestions, he is in a sense misleading the population here.
Speak your mind. Defend your country. Call in. Numbers to call: 869-669-7312. That's 869-669-7312 or 917-460-2187. That's 917-460-2187. On target here on 2020 Vision Radio every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. On target. Be a part of it.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are strictly those of the participants and do not represent those of 2020visionradio.com or its advertisers.
Let us put our hands together for Pupa Wheeler!
South amiga and amigos, como esta bien vida, la Nivis fiesta, bring them to shout for me. I want them to roar, boy, roar for me, boy. I go be mashing down the complex, yes. If they don't call me king, boy, I don't really like the doctor placing the campus suicide bomber, boy. Bringing them to shout for me. I want them to roar, boy, roar for me. Anything you want, you go get, boy. I'm mixing up the soca with some Hindi and some rumba, chutney and lavandera. ID no necessary, boy. Whisker lips a mercenary. Bringing them to shout for me. I want them to roar, boy, roar for me. Maintain your impulso, todo zombie and beater. Take it away. Local fans decreasing. Why? By the numbers they keep dropping. Nobody don't shout no more like they used to shout before. Why? These grunting fans they crumbling about promise songs. Fail on delivering. Start song and can't finish it. It's standard English, singing stupidness, nonsense. Why don't you sing a song and again? Tell me what happened to me fair share when the money disappear. Ooh yeah, boy. Stewardship in question here. Bringing them to shout for me. I wanted to roar, boy, roar for me. Complex. Yes, if they don't call me king, boy, I don't really like the doctor placing their campus suicide bomber. Bringing them to shout for me. I want them to roar, boy, roar for me. I'm gonna be mashing up the complex. Yes, if they don't call me king, doctor, placing your campus suicide bomber. Boy, bringing them to shout for me. I want them to roar, boy, roar for me. Anything you want, you go get, boy. I'm mixing up the soca with some Hindi and some rumba, chutney and lavandera. ID no necessary. Boy, whisker lips a mercenary. Bringing them to shout for me. I want them to roar, boy, roar for me. Maintain your impulso, todo zombie and beater. Boy, take it away. Airlines. See preacher, see taxi. Bringing them to shout for me. I want them to roar, boy, roar for me. You don't know. You got to spend big money if you wanna win monarchy. I go got the diaspora. 420 in my corner, boy. Share the life, boy. Press like, subscribe, sharing. diaspora's king. Your kingdom is knocking down your airport, knocking down hospital walls, training geothermal. Let the Jewish people sing the song. These Hebrew boys don't understand. Becky, that is out for me. I want it raw boy, raw for me. I'll be rocking down the complex. Yes, if they don't throw me king, do it like the Dr. President come to suicide bomber. Ready to shout for me. I wanted to raw boy, raw for me. Anything you want, you go get. Yes, I'm mixing up the soca with some Hindi and some rumba, chutney and la bandera. ID no necessary. Please calypso mercenary. So, don't so be a beer. Take the momentum. Everybody is welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon and good afternoon again, and welcome to this edition of On Target. And as usual on a Saturday afternoon, I'm your host. And in studio with me bright and early is Mantulu Weeks and Hensley Henop Daniel from down there in the bottom of Cox. And so we are grateful for your presence this afternoon, and special welcome to those who are joining us, whether you're on the Facebook feed, Twitch, YouTube, and of course on the FM dial. If you're on St. Kitts, Nevis, or in the greater diaspora, good afternoon to each and every one of you. And let me say special congratulations to Lydia Paris. She is number one today on the podium. Mm-hmm. She has been banting around 1 and 2 and 3 for some time, but she's finally made top honors on the podium. Congratulations, Lydia. And of course, following very, very, very close behind here, IDF Ingrid Daniel Farrow from there in Virginia, the sister of our beloved party leader, Janice Daniel Hodge. And we have third, the man from St. Kitts, Kitchen King, all the way in Oklahoma. He's number 3. And that queen from up there in Government Road, now residing in Canada, Michelle Liebert. She's number 4. And my number 1 fan in St. Kitts, Daldria Penny, is in the house. Good afternoon to you, Dal. And another beautiful lady, Olivia. Olivia is in the house. Good afternoon to Olivia. She just barely made Miss Podium, but she's good. Olivia David, that is. Drutzel Barton. I saw a picture of Drutzel the other day. Hensley. Mm-hmm. Oh, she looks delicious.
You know the Coke bottle, the small Coke. You know.
Why did I ask you the question?
Huh? No, I have.
Drutzel, forgive me for putting you out there like this.
No, if you in the body of a black woman is still a tapper.
Tulu, forgive him.
Christ made them, you know. If you forget Christ.
Lorette Wharton, my dear, looking lovely as usual. Lorette, good afternoon to you. Ruthlyn Hill up there in Florida. Good afternoon to Ruthlyn. Marcella B. Queely Jones down there in the USVI. Hildred Davis up there in Montserrat Village. My countrywoman by my father's side. She's from her family. It's usually from Montserrat. Yeah. And so it's Tulu's family and my family on my father's side. So Nevis is full of Monstrations. We love Monstrations. Jessica Lewis, the sister of my favorite sister-in-law, who's celebrating birthday today. Jessica Lewis is in the house. Cecile Hobson is in the house. Good afternoon, Cecile. And that queen up there in Boston celebrating the birth of a new grandchild. I think it's the only one. I don't know, you more than you get. Sharon Stapleton. She's boasting about her, beloved grand. So Congratulations.
You know something, Kel, you notice that women sometimes get more excited and exultant about grandchildren than children.
Okay, then bang out the children. Norma Jean, good afternoon to you, my dear. I hope you're doing well. Down there in St. Thomas, Delicious Brown is with us. And so is another queen, Lydia.
When
Penny Liebert
left here, she was delicious. When she gone to St. Thomas, she's delicious.
Well, that's evolution for you.
Okay.
Catherine France, one of my favorite people in the world. She is with us. Good afternoon, Catherine. Janet Grell over there in Budgeon.
Oh, nobody.
Budgeon Range.
Nobody looks as good as
She looks wonderful.
Nobody at her age.
Jeff Pemberton is with us, and so is Burl Jones. And my good friend from down the Old Hospital Road, Bumpy Moving, is with us. Gemini Nisbet over there in St. James. How are you, my dear? And did I say Drexel Barton already? Did I?
Yeah,
I did?
Course,
She's so wonderful. I had her down twice.
Of course.
So there's more.
Of course.
Drexel, Tula said move on.
A double portion is for Drexel. We'll move on.
Come on, Star Muchacha over there in Bath Village. Iron Door is in the house. Ermin Farrell is in the house. Earl Mascall is in the house. And so is Annette Morton. And we have some new arrivals. We have our resident engineer, Lawson Morton, just clocked on to make sure we keep this show clean and
It's
nothing.
a clean show.
Evelyn. Evelyn. And everybody's wishing Sindrine Louis Daly happy birthday. So
Today is Twilla's birthday.
today is the 5th of July. It's always her birthday on the 5th of July. I have now
So what are you
imprinted
doing
that.
for your favorite sister-in-law?
I'm going to sing for her.
That's all.
We sang on Thursday night, myself and Tulu and Carlisle, but she's such a special person that I have to sing again for
She gets
her.
a double portion.
She gets a double portion because she deserves it. Even though my barrel is on the way.
That's why the singing, the singing is barrel connected.
I'm not hearing you clearly, Tulu. Is your mic on properly?
Should be on.
I'm not hearing you. Can you just let me check something? Say hello.
Hi.
No, I'm not hearing you.
Hello.
Try again.
Hi.
I'm not.
You can restart it out later.
No, I need to get it done because I'm not hearing you. All these things are up. Okay, try again now.
Hi.
Better?
Hi.
Hello.
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
You hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear.
All right, cool. 4-3.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Sindrine Louis Daly.
All right. Okay. Now, first order of business. Oh, Ian Nevis back. Big Papa Taylor just clocked on, and so my good friend Colin Walters just clocked on.
Oh, Ian Taylor, yes.
And Catherine France is wishing happy birthday to her sister Fanella and Jacqueline France today. Oh, two sisters
yeah.
born on the same day. Wow.
Fanella France, yeah.
Fanella France and Jacqueline France born on the same day.
But two sisters.
Yeah, it seems that way. Two sisters. Yeah. Okay, cool. I see a name here, John Brown. You know John Brown? I don't know John
That
Brown.
is such a common name.
All right, that might be
John Brown.
That might be Mark Brantley listening to us.
He won't take on that title.
John Brown, let us know who you are because I've never seen that name before. So if you are one of us, just say, hey, I'm this John Brown, that's my real name, and my family name is this, and blah, blah, blah. We'd always like to keep it simple and family oriented here. So if you don't mind, all right? All right, so gentlemen, we're going to sing happy birthday to my beloved sister-in-law. And then
The Culturama barrel is on its way.
is already on its way, so there's no pressure. But
While she is special, we'll also do it for all those.
yes, of
who
course.
celebrate.
This goes to the sisters of our great Catherine France. So
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
Today is Twilla's birthday. I know my brother Denny. He's not the greatest romantic, but
Good afternoon.
he because he's my brother.
Okay.
All right? And so I know tomorrow I'll call him and he'll be all worn out. I don't know. Hey, you know, birthday come once a year, so you gotta make it work.
No, this is culture, man. This is time for cultural exchange and a little humor, so go ahead.
This isn't a humor. And I'll call him tomorrow. I'll call him tomorrow early, and
When call him for?
I'll call him early. He's my brother, and I love him. I have to check on his welfare.
No, you're not checking the welfare. Trying to spoil any man business. Don't answer your phone then when Emmanuel is his number.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And from us in the studio, may you live to be 101, and us 101 minus a day, so we don't have to see you go. May God continue to bless you with good health, strength, and of course, wealth. All right. I see a note here from Catherine. She's saying Catherine is Fenella. So you have two names?
Yeah, Fenella.
Fenella is Catherine?
Yes.
Catherine is Fenella. So Catherine is also celebrating. To sisters Fenella and Jacqueline. But why would Catherine France send a message like that? It's kind of confusing.
Because Catherine is sunny doors for sister Fenella.
And
Jacqueline.
yeah, so she should have been saying, but to me and my sister.
Yes.
Catherine, don't try to fool me. Yeah? All right. Just a reminder, on the 10th, July 10th is the homegoing service for our brother over there in Bath, Jean T. James, from a fisherman, good friend of mine. He's being interned over there at the funeral home at Madden's, or I should say Eden Brown. The service starts around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, July 10th. So keep that date and go and pay your respects to the family.
And the day before is our other brother Walter.
Walter is on the 9th.
On the 9th at the Wesley and Holiness Church in Gingerland.
Yes. So we got two funerals to attend to say goodbye to our brothers. All right. Health tip for today. We want to talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. All right. And with intermittent fasting, of course, and you're focused not only on what you eat, but when you eat. The research is now pointing to the importance of when you eat. All right, not just you see, you can improve your diet by cutting out all the harmful stuff, all the processed foods and the harmful oils. But if you eat good stuff at the wrong time or eat too much of it, you're still going to have a difficult time trying to control your diet. So we're going to talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. All right, there are two types of intermittent fasting. Well, there are many types, but the two main types are you fast for a certain number of hours, and then you eat each day. All right, that's the one I like. And then the second one, eating one meal at least twice a week. You eat one meal, and the rest of the times you eat normal. All right? So the first one, which I tend to use, fasting for a certain number of hours each day. I try my best, very, very best, not to eat, because I know my body. Everybody's body is different. If you're a morning person like I am, you may want to have your fasting regime different to somebody who is more evening person. All right? For me, who's a morning person, I have now cut back severely on when I eat in the mornings. So I would not, beside my vitamin shot, my cup of tea, green tea the first thing in the morning, then a vitamin shot, I wouldn't eat until 11:30. That would be my first meal. All right? And then I would eat my second meal about 5-6 hours later, if need, and then I'm done. So 2 meals, you make it enough calories, enough protein to cover 2 meals without having to go beyond a certain amount of time, too late into the evening. All right? If you are on the other method where you eat 1 meal twice a week, that's your style. Fine. Once you get in the correct amount of nutrients in that period of time, it's fine. All right? Now, listen to what's happening. 50 years ago, when we were going to Tulu, we had no TV. Very few people had TVs. We didn't have computers. We didn't have all of these smart devices. We spent hours and hours. We were more active. We were outside, burning calories. We weren't that lucrative that we're eating all day long. And if you want to eat all day long, it's always fruits. Yeah. It's mostly fruits and stuff like that. Yeah. Right? 50 years fast forward, and we are more sedentary. We sit a lot. We spend a lot of time on our computers. We don't exercise enough. We eat a lot of processed foods, high in salt, high in sugars, a lot of fast food, junk food. All right? Back then, the portions were smaller because it was, things were tight.
It was 10 people.
And exactly, you had to share. So instead of 3 wings, you got one. All right? So we ate less food, did no exercise. It was easier to control your diet back then than now. The temptations didn't exist. We didn't have all the fast food. Now what happens now? You sit down to watch a movie, you grab a bag of popcorn. You got some chips. Yeah. You pack your children's school lunches in that bag for break time.
Snacks.
It's snacks.
Snacks what?
So we have been conditioned by the media that snacks are an important part of our diet.
But the snacks cost more than the lunch.
But even beside the cost of it, we are conditioned to eat all day long. So your body does not get a break
to
recover.
No.
All right? Your system is going helter-skelter all day. We were not designed, we did not evolve like that. We evolved to be eating when food is good.
Or eating at mealtime.
Right? So what's happened now, we have become fatter.
Big time.
We have become sicker.
Well.
Right? As a population. We have become fatter and sicker. We are having a difficult time maintaining weight than ever before. Now, most of the food we're eating now, a lot of the food, highly processed foods. All right?
Not good.
Extra calories we are taking in. We are now seeing increasing numbers of persons suffering from non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, cancers. We are seeing that. And it's directly related to the things I just laid out. All right? The high sugar we are consuming, we did a whole show on sugars, and we are consuming much more than we need to consume. And that's causing what you call insulin resistance. Now, scientists are now showing that 80% of the problems we face with our diet, with our health, including what I just mentioned, heart disease, hypertension, stroke, those kind of things, is directly related to insulin resistance. Directly related to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is being driven by the high concentration of sugars in our food, our high intake of sugars. All right? Now, people say, well, what happens when you get up and you feel hungry? You get up in the morning and you want to start your breakfast at 11 o'clock, but you just came out overnight, you didn't eat overnight, so you're hungry. Drink some green tea. Drink some water. I drink green tea. All right? Until you get to the point. And the reason why is all this important is because you don't, number one, you're trying to reduce calorie intake. Number two, you want to give your body a chance to recover. Digestion takes a lot of energy. It is a stress on the body. Your systems are going helter-skelter to digest and absorb and assimilate those nutrients you're taking in. Your body needs to recover. And that's why people are saying, listen, at night, try to get to bed early, get a nice rest, because your body actually heals itself while you're resting. But your body can also heal itself if there's no additional work to do.
No food.
During those down times when you're not eating, your body is actually regenerating itself.
So, people who You mentioned the case about people have different eating habits. So this business of eating that big plate of food in the night is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Absolutely dangerous. If you're at dinner, like you have dinner people, you go out and you have a big steak and some
You
rice
don't,
and
listen, what I'm telling people is this. As you get older, the amount of calories you need to make your body work is reduced. You're not as active.
Right.
And our lifestyle these days is very sedentary.
sedentary, yeah.
All right? So we don't need that big plate of food,
In the night.
especially in the evenings. We don't need it. We feel that we need it because it's custom. Your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or whatever bring this big plate of food. Tell her, listen, no, you're killing me. My waistline is spreading. My diabetes is going to the roof. I can't control it. All right? Things like irritable bowel syndrome is also linked to the fact that we are over-consuming at the wrong times. All right? Our bodies need time to recover and heal. When you eat a piece of food and it goes into your stomach, your body has to produce acid. There's a mucus lining in your stomach that prevents acid from digesting away your insides. That's a lot of mucus has to be produced.
Yes.
Then you go into your small intestine, to your large intestine, your pancreas has to be producing digestive enzymes. It has to be producing all sorts of emulsifiers. Then you have the issue with your pancreas having to produce insulin. Your body is in high alert all the time if you're eating all the time. So if I was to advise people, if you have to snack, grab an apple, grab an orange, grab some grapes, stay away from the processed foods, give your body a chance to recover.
Slice of pizza and pasta and
chips and those
are trouble.
It's trouble. You don't need to be getting sick in your old age
Also,
from those things that are preventable.
Do you advise, for us, growing up in the country, you only, as you were saying, you eat at meal times. So for me, I still never eat between meals. That is something you advise as well? Don't eat between meals.
I don't eat between meals at all.
Okay.
I don't eat between meals at all. I've never been one. I'm not a fancier of food.
No.
I tell the truth. If I don't have to eat, I don't eat.
No.
All right. I eat because I need to survive. But other than that, I am not a lover of food. I don't crave food.
So you advise people to cut out the
snacking.
Cut out the snacking.
Drink water, drink some green tea, have an apple.
Or an orange.
Or something. But those chips and biscuits and cakes and those things, leave those things alone.
And there's a study, Kale, which shows that
I see a note here from Gemini because she keeps coming back with the same thing. Diabetes is genetics. No. Type 2 diabetes is strictly lifestyle. Type 1 diabetes, you can say genetics, but type 2, which is the most prevalent and the most destructive, is lifestyle. You're simply stressing your pancreas, getting your pancreas to be inflamed. You're overproducing insulin, your body becomes insulin resistant, you're not absorbing sugars into your cells starve, you end up with diabetes, renal failure, next thing you lose a leg, and all kind of things like that. All right, so we need to be cognizant of what it is we are trying to achieve. All right, if you're going to be over-consuming on calories and you're not active, those calories are going to go on your waistline. It's going to go on your liver. All right, you're not going to grow muscle with fat. All you're going to get is obese, slowing down, and getting sick in your old age.
What do you say, Kel, to the high energy users like the fellows who are working in construction and so on? What do you say?
They need high calorie diets.
High calorie diets.
But no junk. They're high calorie diets with good eating, wholesome food, sweet potatoes, breadfruit, bananas, fish. Those are wholesome, high calorie foods.
Okay.
Without the added sugar and the dangers of added sugar.
And there is this study which shows that they are saying to all people all around you, looking at the cancer outbreak around the world, that cancer love the sweet food. That people who love to eat a lot of sweet, you are making yourself predisposed. You are predisposing yourself to cancer.
A lot of things are caused by the inflammation, including cancers, including diabetes, kidney disease. It's all inflammation. They're saying no, inflammation is what causes dementia and those kind of things like that. So a lot of things are now linked right back to inflammation, and we know we have done several broadcasts of how to reduce inflammation in your body. And if you need a refresher on that, let me know. But inflammation is simple. It is something you can control. It's in your power to control. It all comes down to what you choose to put in your mouth and when you put it in your mouth. All right? Good. If you see a fat Rasta man, let me know.
you know.
I know one.
You know one? One of how many?
Ken, I've been to Cuba many times, and I kept saying that, but wait, I see people going walking, and I don't see any fat people. I don't see a lot of fat people. I stand up.
No, gone to the US on boats.
But you stand up any day in Bastia or in Charlestown, and you see some really, really heavy people, and they are going into the fast food places to continue.
It's a craving that they have to control. Otherwise, you're going to end up with all sort of complications in your whole life. When your body is less able to defend itself as you get older, because you have a suppressed or reduced immune response. That is when you need the protection most, and you have it less. But you see people, already severely overweight with a 20-ounce bottle of Coke and a whole pizza. I mean,
that is murder.
It is.
It's suicidal.
It is not helping. It is not helping. If you don't want to do it for you, do it for your children.
So why do we continue to give people license to open these fast food?
Because
places?
it's your choice to go in there.
It's your choice.
No, but if
you can't license or you can't legislate people's lifestyle choices.
The policymakers say that they are now focusing on prevention rather than cure. You're telling us that the causes of what they are fighting to cure or to keep back is
right on the shelf.
Right on the shelf. So if the policymaker, wants to improve, you ban those things and you don't give license for those things.
Some countries have outright banned certain products, especially products with harmful ingredients. They have banned them outright.
I think in Britain they have done something with the drinks. If the drinks have more than 10 or 12 grams of sugar, there is a tax which comes on it.
High tax.
And so you pay a high tax. Also, Tulu, if the community is listening to what Kelly's saying here, what we are saying in relation to healthcare, if you're the grocer and you have 10 cases of sweet drinks and the people are willing to follow what Dr. Daly is saying, your drinks are on the shelf for months and then you realize people not buying.
And
the consumer.
We as a society have to pay for the healthcare costs.
Yeah.
Of all those. So
move
there's a tax
from the.
There's the reason why there's a high tax on liquor and cigarettes.
Is the damage
because of the well-known damage these things cause.
Put it on the sweet drinks then.
In New York State, there is an increase. Depending on what the sugar is in the sweet drinks, you have to pay additional fees. Yeah. And a lot of countries have done that because then you're trying to recover the cost of healthcare.
Yeah.
So you either do it up front or you do it in the back. All right. So I don't see anything on the horizon here because we don't have a minister of health that knows anything, that's interested in anything, because these are the kind of conversations she should be having out there in the general space to say about this crisis we are having now with non-communicable diseases, especially diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and cancers.
You're seeing the diabetes in children even, Kel. I mean, childhood cases.
Because a lot of children are coming down now. I mean, when I was
tooth decay is a reflection of that.
When I was at CSS, for example, the amount of excuses we used to get from parents for children not participating in the heats for sports term. Out your head, but the kids are just too heavy to be running, especially in the heat.
Yeah, that's trouble.
We have a population that is basically has been broken with overconsumption of the wrong kinds of food.
Wrong kinds of food.
Anyway, Let me say good afternoon to Erskine Nisbet. He just clocked on. Judy Cornelius Webb. And she's saying, oh, she's not a lover of food either. So we're in the same boat. Jam Forbes says she wants some sarsaparilla. I don't know where she can get that from. Piola Hanley is watching us, and so is Aldine Daniel, Marnell Davis, and
Piola had some mangoes the other day.
Delia Wilkinson, she says, good afternoon, my comrades. It's been a very long time. No love lost. She should be ashamed to say that.
No.
It's been a very long time.
But Kel, just one last thing in relation to the sweet. This is the mango season in Nevis, and people are going to be eating by the dozens, 2 dozens and 3 dozens. It's not a good thing. It's too much one time.
Well, they'll find out.
But they'll find out way up in the hospital.
Well, they'll find out. we did a whole show, well, not a whole show, we did a presentation a week ago or so, 2 weeks ago, on sugars, including fruits.
Including my mangoes.
Including mangoes. And so the information is there.
Every time I eat them, I see you and hear in my head.
And what do you do? You still eat them, right? Okay. Right. And,
one mango, Kel, in terms of the sugar content, one mango.
It depends on the type and the size.
Mm-hmm.
But at least you have at least 10, 15.
The problem, there's not so much a problem with mangoes, if
it's natural.
No, not only natural. The fact that it has a lot of fiber, it slows down the rate at which the sugar is absorbed. So your body has a chance to moderate the intake of sugar. Mm-hmm. If that amount of sugar is about 30, 40 grams, is drank in a cup of tea, for example, it's a whole different ballgame. The sugar just swims right through your system, and that's a whole different thing. All right, moving on. If you're trying to, somebody sent me a note yesterday, said that the Federal Express, the aircraft Federal Express, who brings the Federal Express packages, no longer lands at Vans International Airport. They now land on St. Kitts and send the packages over to Nevis. Mm. Had nothing to do with the length of the runway or the condition of the terminal or anything like that. They simply decide it's not cost effective enough.
Business.
And so they are now landing on St. Kitts and send the packages over to Nevis. FedEx is not landing at the Vance International Airport anymore. DHL is still coming in. And so at least you have 1 out of 2 still operating from the Vance International Airport. All right. Now, a good friend of mine keeps sending me information about what's happening on the southeast of Nevis.
Land.
The land issue. And that person sent me an article that was published about a similar situation in Honduras, where this company out of the U.S., it's a conglomerate. A conglomerate is a compilation of companies getting together, and they were trying to do a similar development on Honduras, and the similar sovereign enclave kind of development. And so, when they came in to negotiate with the Honduran government back in the day, I think it is 2006 or thereabouts, 2006, between 2006 and 2010, there was a very, very corrupt government in Honduras, and they were easily persuaded to go into their constitution and change it to allow the creation of this sovereign enclave on Honduras, or in Honduras. And the new government of today repealed the legislation that allowed this creation of this monster. The previous government called it what? The note I have here called it a special administrative area that essentially would be governed by private companies. The government referred to them as Employment and Economic Development Zones, ZD. ZD. Employment and Economic Zone, ZD. That's the Spanish acronym.
Zonas de Desarrollo.
Yes. All right. So that is how they couched it. we are going to create, and you remember Mark Branty talking about the special economic zones and they're going to create employment and blah, 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 blah. But in Honduras, it actually happened. It began to happen, where the government ceded over 6,000 acres to this conglomerate out of the U.S. The new government comes in 2024, repeals the legislation that authorized the creation of these ZDs.
But it's closer right here, you know?
Hold on there. Right? Authorized the creation of these ZDs. And you know what happened? The companies, this conglomerate is now suing the government of Honduras for $14 billion. $14 billion.
They're going to win.
I'm not certain about that. Because the law that was broken to give them control, it was unconstitutional. It was ruled unconstitutional. All right? So now, this matter is now before the court, not in Honduras, but the World Court of something else. All right?
ICJ.
Yeah. Well, I don't know which one it is. I should have gotten that information. But I bring all this up because of an article that I read in Times Caribbean. No purpose of Times Caribbean as a propaganda machine, or they can say what they want. But there's some information inside there you can decipher and back check. Okay? And my question, when I started researching this, are these ZDs? Is Port Zante a ZD? Not Port Zante, sorry. Christopher Harbour. Is Christopher Harbour an example of a ZD?
It is believed so.
All right? And remember what I told you what ZD is. A special employment and economic development zone. Watch out. All right? So according to Times Caribbean, Christopher Harbour was created by special laws passed in our parliament in St. Kitts and Nevis, granting Christopher Harbour exclusive legislative protection and autonomy, immune from standard government enforcement mechanisms, including housing regulations and such.
Special economic zone.
All right? This is different to special economic zone. These people were given special legislative protection to do what they want to do over there on Christopher Harbour. So we didn't have to go to Honduras to see it.
Happening.
We are seeing it right here, a microcosm
Of
smaller, but the same
concept
where foreign companies are coming in, controlling a huge part of your country, have special privileges that you as a government cannot intercede on. I want to see this legislation because I want to understand fully how we got so backward in this place that we don't recognize that this country is being taken from right under our feet.
But
it is ridiculous.
No.
You see, Kel, I only say one thing, and as you just said, we have the precedents. In 1975, the sugar lands in St. Kitts belonged to the white people. They said they're not giving them up. Premier Bradshaw said, what? You're not giving them up? They said they had all those same protections. They get them from whenever. Bradshaw then said the Parliament is the highest court in the land. He went to the Parliament with the Sugar Lands Acquisition Act. The same thing can happen in Honduras, and the same thing can happen in Nevis. If those people come to Nevis and section off portions of the country, and whoever gives them the right, the same law which gives them the right, we go back to the Parliament and we repeal it.
But then
story done.
You have to
Story not done.
compensate
Story not done
people.
because
It's done
the story ain't done. All right? Because we saw what happened years ago when we tried to take over digital cable. The embassy in Barbados was written to by Mark Brantley.
Yes.
And the Americans start kicking up,
Yeah, I know.
and we had to give it back to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with Americans, their government is going to defend them tooth and nail. They ain't going to tell them they're wrong. They are going to defend their capitalistic system to the end. My fear is that this case in Honduras, if this Honduras government loses this case,
They're going to lose it.
if they lose this case,
it
sends a serious message that your constitution, your court don't mean nothing.
And it emboldens people, Kel. It will embolden other conglomerates or other companies to do likewise.
But you have to compensate the investors or the investor.
You're not taking anything from them, you know. What you're saying
Is not
you
what-
have acquired the land. We're not taking back the land from you.
No,
All we're saying is you will be treated like anybody else.
exactly.
You no longer have exclusive control. We can come. You have to now submit to our constitution, to our laws,
And the
our
people-
regulations.
The reason why I invest in your country
That's up to you.
is based on all of these titles, protection that was given, because I didn't know that we have it here, but I follow the one in Antigua. And the one in Antigua, which has eventually failed, the government gave them down to the rights that any body comes to threaten them, any government, any entity, the government is going to legally represent them.
That's the guy at the island project.
The one in Antigua, the special economic zone, they call it, EDA. The government put in all the infrastructure, the roads and everything, and then within that special economic zone, the investor could buy and sell. They have their own customs, their own port, anything comes through that belongs to EDA. They have their own customs inside there, and what's that? We call it a special, they were going to sell guns, and they were already advertising that you could have come in and buy it. Forget how much 100 acres of land they were given. And they are protected. The thing with EDA though in Antigua is that the investor broke. He came, he said he's going to spend, I think it's over $100 million. And it flopped. Most of the development, when they destroy all the mangrove and what's not, was a big uproar of the people protesting. Yeah, but he went ahead and did it anyhow and said that they're going to plant back mangrove and this and that. And so is the very thing. And the investor is protected. No government could come later on and just take it away without compensating him for the investment.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to see the legislation to know exactly what liabilities the government face.
Okay.
All right? This happened under a Labour government. All right? And you all know Christopher Harbour, the Marina Park was sold recently
yes.
under another Labour government. We are not learning the facts. We are not seeing all of the facts. We are not seeing all of the details. We are hearing things are being sold. We are hearing money is being paid to settle all debts. 150 million US for the Marina. I would have made sure. I don't want to speak out of turn because it might be in the legislation, all those regulations as to how any proceeds from any sale is handled. I don't know. But all I'm saying is any government going forward has to be not only cognizant of the implications of these kind of developments, but the consequences
of repealing
the legislation that enabled them in the first place.
Yeah. So you have enabling legislation put forward by one government. You come in, Kelly, you look at it and you say, but no.
This don't make no sense.
This don't make no sense. This compromises. So I come with I get elected. So I supposed to continue with a thing that don't make sense. And so I compromise large sections of the country and by extension the population.
But look what happened. Take a look at what happened in St. James with the medical university.
Yeah, 50
They were given a 50-year lease, unbreakable.
Yeah.
Unbreakable.
Nobody could break it.
Nobody could break it.
Not even the incoming government.
You understand? And so you have to question.
This is recolonization.
You have to question the mindset of our leadership. When they make these kind of decisions, who are they trying to benefit?
Themselves.
Who are they trying to help?
Exactly.
Themselves.
Because it's not helping the population when you have a medical university up there who promised to deliver X amount of dollars through student retention and incoming students and all kind of things like that. You're not fooling that. You're not doing that. And then you have a situation where they're not paying taxes because they're not making the threshold amount of money. With a 50-year lease,
50 years.
Unbreakable.
Nobody could break it.
I want to see that piece of I want to see that legislation or that contract because it is crazy. I want to see the one on St. Kitts. I have to really start digging. I started a bit late today, so I didn't get a chance to really go down into the nitty-gritty because those pieces of legislation must have been gazetted and therefore available to the public for scrutiny.
Right.
I now need to go and see what are the details because I get a feeling.
The consequences.
Given the fact that Kelson Wilkin, what is it?
Kelsey Wilkin and Ferdinand.
Yeah. What the Prime Minister, what the AG name? Wilkin, right?
Yeah, it's Wilkin. Yeah.
His father,
Yeah.
his father's law firm is the lawyer for Christopher Harbour. They're the lawyers. So
Charles Wilkin.
they're the lawyers for Christopher Harbour. Right? So it'd be interesting to read now as to why the government acted the way they acted with the sale of Christopher Harbour, with the marina, of course. And why we are behaving a certain way, because they might be constrained by how the piece of legislation was crafted, right? The reason I'm bringing all this up, because we are next here on Nevis.
True.
Yeah.
The 800, let me make sure I'm right here, the 852 acres that the government bought.
They've already got some?
No, the 852 acres the government bought and gave to Christopher Harbour for the development, it was compulsorily acquired. Now, who is to say that the people who own land up there in the southeast peninsula of Nevis,
That theirs wouldn't become.
that theirs would not be compulsory acquired either and sold on to this development? All right? Let's take this call.
That's scary.
Good afternoon, Target.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Good afternoon.
I'm very glad to hear you say that you're going to do some research into these kind of deals here, because I think that is exactly what should be happening, right? Government, successive governments have been making these kinds of deals right under our noses. There's no transparency. I could understand them keeping things quiet until they have an agreement, but certainly after that, they should release details of whatever agreement there is. And I don't know, is there an actual policy, for instance, for something like gated communities? Are they allowed on the island?
It's part of Christopher Harbour agreement with the government. That's what I'm reading. It's part of the Christopher Harbour agreement to allow gated communities. And I've been to one over in Christopher Harbour. When I was at the college in St. Kitts, I was invited to a lunch over there. And you had to go through, and it's a gated community. You can't pass, a regular Kittish division cannot pass through there.
Well, they're creeping up in other places, apparently. And I don't know. I think that the population as a whole have to ask itself, this is what we really want. I mean, Frigate Bay, for instance, used to be essentially one before it was developed. And you have to pay to go over there,
Really?
get permission to go over there and that sort of thing, to go to the beach.
Yeah.
Do we really want to go back there with any kind of new development, right? And so it's very good that you're looking into this and hopefully bring it to the attention, because we are asleep when and let these things happen, right? And only when it get out of hand, when we realize that they're really stepping on our toes, that we start to sit up and take notice. It's unfortunate that we have the kind of leaders who don't look at 20 years down the road and 50 years down the road and realize that the grandchildren can curse them and wonder what the hell they were thinking when they make deals like this. You know, so it's good. Hopefully more people would do likewise and really investigate this. It's something that an opposition is supposed to be doing. Because I would imagine by now they're searching for ways to differentiate themselves from how the government operates. And this would be one of them. We can't continue making deals like these. And wherever we have the opportunity, to get back land that has been farmed out to the developers, we use it. And the marina is a case in point. Couldn't there be, since they had these people by the throat, so to speak, couldn't they have made a deal to own the marina and give it to this new group, since they have so much expertise and so on, to manage and market and develop and so on? Or lease, or do some kind of lease arrangement. But this ownership thing, we got to be really careful of. Absolutely be careful of, because it's going down the wrong road. If people want to come, and it's not against foreign direct investment. Sure, we welcome bona fide investors,
yeah.
right? But it should be a partnership. They shouldn't come and be taken back over large tracts of land. Hotel development is fine, but large tracts of land and they're going to make them gated communities. No. We don't want that kind of apartheid, because that's essentially what it ends up being here in our country. And whoever come in should realize that this is not the kind of development we want, and so we should not be signing on to these kinds of things.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you much. All right. So the thing about it is, the family that came to do Christopher Harbour, they didn't come with the money. The government then of Dr. Douglas, and I'm ashamed to say so, I didn't know about a lot of this, allowed them to borrow $16 million from SIDF, and another 16 plus 6 million for the marina from National Bank. I mean, you're talking about 16 plus 6 is 22 plus 16 is $38 million US dollars.
$100 million.
You ain't coming with no money, but we're giving you, the government is giving you 852 acres, compulsory acquiring 852 acres and drop it at your doorstep, plus another $100 million in financing. And what you bring? A special deal, so you can control what goes on over there, who lives over there, and all these kind of things. Right here on Singleton Nevis.
The politician, Dr. Daly.
Where are we going with this kind of development? Why are we so desperate?
Greed, personal greed. It had nothing to do with the country. It's what India for me.
Good afternoon, on Target.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The people who went to music festival, listening to all this.
I don't know.
That's the generation of tomorrow. Because you want to go up here. Christian and individual. All the young people are just jump up. All of them are studying jumping up and getting up. They now study all the while, you know. And the people like me, I listen to you carefully. Because why you talk not so good, because you're supposed to go to the gate over quick to the harbor and straight down the way, you're supposed to walk straight through.
Thank you, sir.
And I see American government to back up everything with if American boy them government go follow them all the way through. So are we going to lose case with all of that? That's why you want man like a grab you there. All right.
All right, thank you, sir.
You know, Kel, you just made the point about people come, and my late mother would say they're too long hand, just empty. There is something that is appealing to developers with black leaders.
With corp leaders.
With black leaders that they are, don't worry with them. Man, they can be bought.
Listen.
We can get this deal through.
Hensley.
And they can go to their parliaments. The parliament, which makes it very complex and very difficult to get back property. And I believe Charkdus has that song, white people laughing at we, every time they come to the country. Where else they go, Kel? Can they go to Canada and Europe with two long hands with nothing and get all of this deal?
When we became when we became an independent society with our own government in Nevis, when Nevis was behind and Dr. Daniel came and we started out, we were in a vulnerable state. I am told that Dr. Daniel on his trip met a potential investor who wants to come to Nevis. Tell him come, discuss a proposal, the business. Tell him come, let's sit down and talk. The investor came. When the investor came, I'm told while they're sitting around the table discussing, the investor asks Dr. Daniel
Talking to the mic, please.
about the money to do his business. And they say immediately, Sim said, listen, talk to Earl Isaac. He's the finance man. And move out of the conversation. What Sim Daniel said to the investor, they listen, I am not going to entertain no business with you because you're coming to Nevis to say you want to set up, and me must give you money to set up. That is a guy, a man who cared about his people. When you have these leaders who are going to take up 600 acres of land and 300 acres of land and give investors and also give them money to do the investment, or give them, like in Nevis case, you gave an investor 600 acres of land, gave them the title to it, for them to go outside now, go look collateral to come back in to invest in our country.
Use it as collateral.
Okay? We lost the 600 acres. The investor never brought back a dime spent on the island, but I'm told that they were able to sell that property, made money, and then somebody sold it again and made money, and the price going up. Because what? These leaders are gullible. And so this gave me a higher regard for Simeon Daniel and men like Joseph Parry, who could not have been sold up because what? These are people with a sense of black national pride and care about their people, not themselves.
Just to say, fellas, that I was a part of the cabinet meeting when the gentleman who owned the 600 acres of land, I never saw a man sweat so. We argued that you got 600 acres of land for must be $8,000 an acre. And so we were saying, well, how something doesn't tell you something is wrong with that? He said it's because of the amount he bought, because it's 600, so the unit cost drops. But we took back 172 acres of land in the interest of the, and it has to do, Kel, with the point you're making. The agreement that he had with the government, that's the most we were allowed to do. Because 98 acres of the land was above the 10,000 foot contour, and then 60 acres of the land was not negotiated in terms of the price, but they give them all. But there's 60 acres of land. Essentially, they were given free. So we took back the 60 acres of land and the 98 acres of land. And I remember a Jamaican fella saying to me, boy, I listen to the radio and I see the woman on TV giving back the title to the land. And he was saying, all the years I'm in Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean, people make noise about the land people have. He talk about Spring Plains in Jamaica. They never get back any land. But the difference is that the guy wanted to proceed. So we were able to find that the land was above the 1,000-foot contour and 60 acres. But imagine, Kelly, giving somebody 60 acres of your land, just so.
So we got back basically nothing out of what they paid for.
I think it's 172 acres.
68 acres that they didn't pay for. But the thing about the way the system is so
how are you going to
structured-
sell? How the hell? Hold on, Atula.
Yeah.
How are you going to sell an acre of land for $8,000?
But that's the point.
From the sea. Let me appraise the people out there in the diaspora.
Yeah.
Where this land is. Newfound, the company is called Newfound.
Mm-hmm.
Like T-Found. They could call them T-Found land.
Thief.
Right? Newfound goes from Pinnis Beach Hotel, the beach, straight up to Mount Travers.
Right to Mount Travers.
600 acres. This is what Vance Emery and the system government
Took Mount Travers as part of it.
took Mount Travers apart, a historical site.
Yeah.
Give them that for $8,000 an acre. Which part?
Which part of the world is that?
Where you want to get an acre of beachfront for $8,000 an acre? Are you mad?
Well, you hear how the guy reasoned it? Kel?
It doesn't matter. You could reason it for
I'm
years.
just telling you.
I
it
understand
makes
his
sense.
reasoning.
Yeah.
You buy a whole lot, you get a lower price. But not $8,000.
But not so low.
Right? Land in that area right now where Nisbet is, but what Restream is. Right? Right now, the land down there valued just an acre and 3/4, or just about 2 acres.
Millions.
At $1 million an acre.
$1 million an acre.
You see,
And you're going to sell 600 acres, for 8,000 acres.
And what do you feel that was vexing about that investment there, Dr. Daly?
These guys need to go jail.
when Dr. Daniel was trying to use treasury bill
to sell pennies, yeah.
to buy pennies, the CCM government won the government, and the persons who had already invested in treasury bills, they gave them back the money and said they're not going to do that.
Buy pennies.
Then they turn around and use the same treasury bills to buy the same pennies estate at a higher cost, and then turn around and flip it and give it to Newfound. Not, you know? So the corruption that went down
so
there
it's no different than what happened in St. Kitts at Philip.
is no different.
No.
Because
It's not different to
the government
Antigua.
bought compulsory acquired. The Labour government, let me make this clear. I'm not anti-Labour, I'm just anti-stupidness. And the Labour government bought compulsory, I shouldn't say bought, compulsory acquired from private owners 852 acres to give it to Christopher Harbour people.
Who had no money.
Who had then turned around authorized them to borrow 16 million from SIDF and 22 million from National Bank. Are we nuts?
So they got our land and they got our money.
All I
And
want,
we got not
all
none
I
of the
want to
deals.
see, Kel, guys, is where is the similar arrangement for a local investor?
None.
Have you ever heard any?
No. But let's not get too far down the track with St. Kitts.
None is needed.
We are now on Nevis.
Yes.
And we know for a fact, this is no innuendo, no maybe. This is a fact that a company called 17 Degrees North, owned by the Premier's wife, is trying to acquire lands from low ground clear across the Butlers. 1/6 the size of Nevis. From lands from the apron of Saddle Hill, the apron of Brown Hill, Cox Heap, all the way around to Indian Castle and beyond, Webb's Ground, what do you call them now? Hickman's, Fothergills, New River, Indian Castle,
Jackass
Pasha down there. I mean, they are trying to acquire these lands. The Premier's wife, right?
And I got to
Because what they want to do is to partition that off just like they did in Honduras,
Yes.
just like they did in Antigua,
Yes.
just like they're doing in St. Kitts,
Yes.
and all other places where these people with the big money are coming out the woodwork and say, we want our own government, we want our own space, let us go, we're going to create the legislation. Or you better watch the Nevis Island Assembly
To see where the legislation.
to see what legislation is coming through there.
Yeah.
You better keep an eye on that. Let's go to the phone call. Good afternoon, you're on target.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yeah,
Hello?
good afternoon, man. How you guys doing today, man?
We're good. What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to put something in on the Christopher Harbour deals. In my humble opinion, man, it's sad to see what's happening in St. Kitts and Nevis when it comes to these type of stuff. We only have our people and our lands. It's been a lot of chatter that Bratcher secured the lands for the people, but when we came out of slavery, we were lucky to get control of some of these lands, and then now we are just giving back the lands to rich foreign people. It doesn't even seem to me like we're selling the land. It almost like as if we're giving it away. What's going to happen in St. Kitts and Nevis in the near future, and it's probably already happening. The oligarchs will be in there, and then they're going to control the place. Just like what we see happening in Haiti, it's going to happen in St. Kitts and Nevis. You know, we're hearing so much silly stuff happening with these deals, with this Christopher Harbour place, especially recently. One point that I understand in that deal is that they're going to control 12 miles out from the seashore. They're going to control 12 miles of seawater out from the seashore. You know, what's happening on the peninsula in St. Kitts? it's a mirror right in our face of what our leader in Nevis is trying to do on the south side of Nevis. On the south side of Nevis, they're not going to put that infrastructure in to benefit the local people who own those lands over there. But instead, they're trying to trick the people to get the lands from the people. And then when they get the lands from the people, they're going to develop and put the infrastructure in for these rich foreigners. And that's a shame, man. And if St. Kitts and Nevis people just sit down and let this continue in this vein, then it's over for the locals. It's over. It's totally over for the locals. And I don't see why the people can't come together and unite and just hit the streets and protest against these deficiencies. If you guys don't stand up and come together and go in the street, this stuff gonna continue happening. It's not gonna stop. But when we go in the street and protest, it puts a damper on the government. It makes them change their policies. When you put the pressure on the government, it makes them change their policies. And another observation I make, my last observation before I get off. The airport in Nevis, right? Wasn't the American Eagle dropping there? And the same rich Russian that we are talking about, isn't this man flying his plane in and out of there already? So my observation to that is, if the Eagle was coming to Nevis already, and the rich millionaire plane is flying in and out of there already, why does the airport runway needs to be extended and we don't have the traffic coming into Nevis? Why do they really need to extend the runway and we don't have the traffic coming into Nevis? So the $20 million that we are hearing that Dr. Drew is securing for Mark Brantley to compensate the persons up at the top of the airport for their lands, we're going to take that $20 million and just resurface the runway and put whatever other buildings in place or the fuel for the planes coming in and the maintenance hub. We're going to put those other buildings in place. And don't worry about extending the airport. But that's my contribution, man. And you guys, thanks, man. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me say one thing. I was talking about the keeping an eye on our assembly, on Nevis Island Assembly. I'm very serious. Mm-hmm. Because in order for this sovereign enclave to take hold, it needs legislative guidance.
Mm-hmm. It should.
And we are going to be keeping our eyes peeled on the Parliament here on Nevis to question any bill, any ordinance that goes for first or second or third reading regarding any legislation that facilitates the growth or establishment of any sovereign enclave here on Nevis. All right, we're gonna have to do that. Let's take this call. Good afternoon, you're on target.
Good afternoon, Mr. Daly and the others there.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Daly.
Yes.
I know all of you know this same area where I'm living that you usually call Judy Cornelius Estate, right?
Yes.
I know you know the story about it.
Mm.
So one of you please enlighten the people. I know you all know the story about the same estate where Bracha drove out those guys. I know you all know the story. And then a local person bought it for $2 cents or $2 and sell it back to the people. So I know you all know the story. So please enlighten the masses today.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Kel, I would just want to underscore the point you made about the Parliament. Right across the Caribbean, people pay attention to what's happening in their parliaments.
Not us.
Not in Nevis, there is no attention. You could go to the Parliament and change the legislation. For instance, in relation to the banking laws, see if the government goes to the Parliament to change the law to allow banks, offshore banks, onshore banks to own property. That is a scary proposition. But I just want to ask the public to pay attention. Because if you get it in the Parliament, Kel, you made the point earlier, once you get it in the Parliament, it's trouble to deal with the complexities of repealing the legislation.
Good afternoon, on target.
Yeah, good afternoon to the listening public.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
guys. You see this nigger, man? You see this guy? This guy being cultivated for just what happened now. He being cultivated by these people who you seek these lands for. You think he looking these lands for us? You think he looking these lands for himself? He looking these lands for these people? And he only said again to us as a people. This not got nothing to do with no politics. This not got nothing to do with no system and no NRP. This has to do with Nevis and the soul of Nevis. Yo, we got to join together. We got to unite together and get rid of this man. Leading us to destruction. People, he get them land out there. They is going to box us in. We neither go get east, west, north, south. Look at Balgot. Balgot is a typical example. Good afternoon.
Yeah. No, the caller before that, Judy Cunningham Webb, up there, Judy Cunningham Webb Estate. She's right. That land was once owned by a very wealthy gentleman, expatriate, and when decision made by the government to acquire, some of these expatriates took flight and left the lands in care of caretakers. And those lands were summarily sold, bought and sold by local persons, and that is why some estates are now in the hands of divisions. So she's quite right about that. We are going backwards, opposite now. We are now reselling those lands.
Also,
hold on. Good afternoon, you're on target.
Good afternoon, Dr. Daly. Good afternoon, Mr. Daniel, and good afternoon to Lou.
Good afternoon.
I'm listening, and that caller that just called before hollows his voice out a couple of times a week on the different shows. The question I have, though, is, with all of these things that are supposedly to happen, does the government think that there's a need at any point to come to the people in advance to tell them what is going to happen so that people are aware? Or should we just be played as fools and left out here? You guys are doing an excellent job from a different angle, but even from their own angle, to say why they're doing it, what sense it might make or not make. Do they ever think about coming to the people first?
No.
We're only good to cast a vote. That's all we're worth in this country. And it's sad because our people, all of us, we don't speak up and out enough. We will curse each other, but when it comes to situations like this, we're not speaking up and out enough. And so, when is this going to change? When is this going to change? Because one morning we'll wake up and we will no longer own Nevis. As a matter of fact, we may have people telling us we have to get off of their country, the island.
Thank you, caller.
Right?
Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
You know, Kel, you just made the point before the caller that we are going in reverse. While Premier Bradshaw was having so much difficulty controlling the lands in St. Kitts, he came to Nevis and put a number of the estates under the control of the government, made them crown lands. So the estates like at Indian Castle, which is in play now, all of those, Hamilton, he put them under the control of the government again to ensure that they do not end up in the hands of expatriates.
And now we are going backwards.
And now we are taking the same lands that this man fought them on and decided, because look, for instance, Kel, over at Prospect Estate, all of those are public lands, right? Over the various photo guilds and so on. All of them under the government control, and we put them there to help the Nevis people. So now we are going back 60 years after. We are going back. We have a level of backwardness which is striking.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon again. 2011 somewhere around there, right? hundreds of people, right? Included me, when Panu would go march. In solidarity with a man who is focusing on issue. All this is national issue. The hospital, the airport, the road, the land, are national issues. Why we are not marching? Why we are not marching? We pray. We didn't pray to march with a man who is personal issue and it is national issue. And we are sit down. We afraid. Afraid for what? Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Now,
one other thing, Dr. Daly, just before you come back, because people need to understand also, with these enclaves, it's not only the land that these investors get. They get substantial amount of our marine area, ocean, places that we would have, the locals were able to go inhabited and use. We can't. In Antigua, in the case of the failed thing in Antigua, these people had, I think it's 12 miles of land around the economic zone, where the Antiguan people could not go in there after the deal came down. Where they used to, here's where we used to dive for lobsters. We used to go fishing. We used to go picnic. No, they couldn't go into those zones. And so, if we allow in Nevis, the Brantley family, along with whoever they're working with, because one person who they're harassing to get the land would have said to me on more than one occasion that when Mrs. Brantley called about the land, they said, listen, I'll put somebody else. And people called from Canada and England and different places. And so 17 degrees north, whatever conglomerate it had, they had connection with people outside. So if she cannot get through on the island, people from outside calling want the very same land.
no, but she's the agent.
She's the agent.
She's working on behalf of these companies to acquire, and they use all sorts of pressure tactics to force people into selling and parting with their lands. Letters, emails, text messages.
I have some here.
Conference calls.
Yeah, some text messages.
Yeah, and they're basically telling you you're holding out. You're the last one. All sort of things.
You have text. We some of the text messages of me here.
you want to hear?
Yes.
Let me see it.
See, let me send the text message. The thing. I mean,
You lost it.
Sorry.
the person tell me yes. One person tell me they're getting text messages left, right, and center. One said to me that he was called into an office and for a meeting with some of the investors in a particular law firm in Charlestown.
This is one, I won't call the name, who is addressed to. And the person is saying, hello, mister. This is Ryan. I'm reaching out to purchase your land at Saddle Hill Estate. We have a very generous offer. Please call me back anytime. I'm happy to discuss further. Literally dozens of Nevisians have gotten this
kind of thing, yeah.
Harassing emails, text messages, calls to get their hands on this land. They want to acquire.
Suffolk Enclave.
They want to acquire
That's another one.
these lands so badly. Another letter. Dear Mr. Blah, 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 I hope you are doing well. I'm calling to follow up on my previous message. Mr. Derek Fifield had let my colleagues Sharon know that you were interested in selling the land at Saddle Hill. I would love to discuss with you further. Please let us know. These are the kind of things that Nevisians are facing day in and day out. Harassed from the conference room of Daniel Brent and Associates. The Premier of Nevis. Meetings had been held there.
One person told me that.
Meetings had been held there. Trying to convince people to part with this land. This is the Premier of Nevis. Trying to create an exclusive zone of 1/6 of the landmass of Nevis. How we tolerate this nonsense? Let's take this call. Good afternoon, on target.
Yes, Mr. Daly, I have a question. A person that is not a national, for instance, if they weren't born here, Are they required to be selling land? I know that come with certain amount of requirements. You can get citizenship and different things like that. But what is the process that a person that's not born in Nevis go through in order to be able to sell in our lands like that?
Well,
there's a process, something, because I used to work in the financial services, and I think you have to meet certain requirements.
I think there's a alien land holding license you need to acquire in the first instance. But
okay, I'll hang up.
Yeah,
I'll hang up.
the problem we are facing, we have a corrupt system, very corrupt. And when you have the premier involved, because his wife is directly involved, to sell this massive land. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nevis is 36 square miles. 36. We're not getting any bigger.
It's crazy.
And you want to sell 1/6 of it. 1/6 to set up a sovereign enclave with special legislative powers passed by our parliament to enable it, to operate it. And we as a people are going to vote for these. We're going to return these people to government. And then when it happens, who are you going to blame? That you didn't know?
Well, we need to tell them, because
we've been telling you.
Exactly.
We have been telling you this government is bad for Nevis. We've been telling you the history of this government is bad for Nevis. You have a transactional premier who don't care if the sun comes at the middle of the night, it comes in the morning. Once he's being paid.
that is true.
You have his wife now, who is the largest real estate agent, being supported by his husband, using the husband's law firm to bludgeon people into submission. How is this an NRP CCM issue? No. How is this a political issue? That people are going to say, well, NRP this and NRP that. Look what your government is doing. Look what your government is doing to your future and your children's future. They're selling it out. Just like they did it in Honduras and they did it in St. Kitts and Antigua and wherever else.
And they did the 600 acres. They do it already.
Right? I'm saying to you people, we have to really understand. We can't afford this government. We really can't afford this government. They've gone too far. And all the premier is saying in defense is that his wife is a legal real estate agent.
Everybody.
She has to earn a living. Nobody's stopping her from earning a living, Mr. Premier. But she should not be treasonous to the people of Nevis. She should not be treasonous. She's your wife. And you're the premier. And you took an oath to protect and serve the people of Nevis. Well, how is selling 1/6 of Nevis protecting and serving the people of Nevis' best interest?
Can I ask you a question, Dr. Daly?
Go ahead.
Do you believe that the premier is not part and parcel of this fixation on getting those
listen,
lands?
I can only go, and I have enough information to know that the premier's wife is involved. I don't need to bring him in because wherever she is, he is.
Oh, they're one and the same?
I mean.
Okay.
Well, Kelly, you were making the point earlier, or just now, about people need to see what's going on. I was in Brown Pasture last week. I was meeting with a group of some guys. We were having a drink, and the guys were saying, one guy was saying, Daniel, all you got to make sure the government change. And the fellow was saying, them got to make sure? You all don't see the evidence? Which is underscoring what you're saying. The guy said, look, anybody who can't see that this government is blind. And he's saying that they're willful.
Good afternoon, you're on target.
Good afternoon, Kel. Good afternoon, Mr. Daniel. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Dillis.
Hi, Dillis.
And this topic is very vexing. Kel, I am Nivision. My husband is Nivision. I consider my kids 100% Nivision.
Truly.
Maybe we need to take it, or I am going to take it a step further. We have Mark Brantley and his wife with a 50% children coming into Nevis and who probably is going to own the whole of Nevis eventually. What happened to my kids if I decide I want to encourage them to go back to Nevis and own something up there. We need to start looking at what our grandparents and parents was doing for us, encouraging us to get a piece of the rock. My mother did that hard with me until I was able to get myself a piece of land of my own. I want to do the same with my kids. But you have these people with the 50% children who want to own the whole of Nevis. Nevisians have to wake up, and we have to be like Kibo. I admire Kibo. Enough is enough. We have to put a stop to it. We can clearly see why Mark Grantley pushed out Mr. Parry, did everything to rig the election to push out Mr. Parry. Then he went after Vance Amry because he had one intention. Because since he has been in government, he has not done anything beneficial for Nevisians. And Nevisians got to wake up. And like Kibo said, this is not about Mark Grantley and what's her name? Janice Daniel or any one of those people who are going to put their names on the ballot. This is about Nevisians and what we must hold on to. How the hell you going to tell me that 1/6 of Nevis is going to be gated? Are they mad? Nevisians, wake up. We need to wake up. We don't need this crap. It's very vexing when you see what they're doing, because you're hearing all over where they're calling these people and going after the elders who own properties all over. And the children of these elders need to get involved. Hell no. There's something called inheritance. And I leave it there.
Thank you very much, Nilis. All right, we got to move on because we got another couple of things to cover. But we'll continue this conversation. And
just before you go there,
hold on. The caller from St. Kitts mentioned something very interesting when he said that the persons who, the young people, they don't know what's going on around them, give them, a little music and they're good.
Yeah.
And I go back to my favorite quote given to me by a very good friend of mine. It says, give them bread and suckers and they will love you forever. Give them bread and suckers and they will love you together. Free food, some music, and everybody forget about the troubles. They will love you forever. All right? I'm hoping that we have grown beyond that simple analysis and understand that bread and suckers ain't going to carry us into the future. It's going to cost us dearly. Yes, the tool, go ahead.
Apart from the 1/6 of the island going, I was told by somebody from the Gingerland area that they're after lands
all over
in the Harris's area.
All over.
So not only that 6, all inside land, they're coming. There's people wherever lands are. They know where they are. They're trying to get it all.
This is the problem. I don't have so much a problem with them trying to acquire lands for small plots of land to sell and resell. I have no problem with that. My problem, again, it goes back to the huge expanse. We are trying to now create a legislative area separate and apart from Nevis, within Nevis. That is my biggest problem.
A
state within a state.
Let's take this call here. Oh, they lost the call.
A state within a state.
My source is telling me that they want to exchange. So in case Hensley has some down there in that 1/6, and Hensley want to sell it, they say, okay, they want to buy land somewhere else and will exchange you this over there.
Yeah.
So they want to control everything that goes on the island of Nevis.
Listen, like I said again, the biggest existential threat to Nevis as we speak is that 1/6 of Nevis running from Long Point to Butlers. That is what we have to be concerned with.
Land
that is what should be occupying our mind. And who is involved? The Premier and his wife. That should tell us all we need to know. Let's take this call.
The land is power.
Good afternoon, on target.
Yeah, good afternoon. Man, understand how we think as a people. Our parents had lived on these lands. To die. That's why they left them here to die. All the time, they sweat hard. They sweat the ball too. And out of that come us. Out of all of that come us. And what we going to do? Sit down here and let them see him near there. Take a boy from between us and cultivate him. Because that's what they do. Cultivate him and send him back between us. funding him to take back these land from us. But we got to be a crazy people if we sit down and allow this to happen. We need to take the street. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for that. We must be a crazy people indeed, that we're going backwards. We are moving on real quickly because I have to be out of here by 3. There's another crew coming in to do the broadcast for the cricket. So exactly at 3 o'clock, we got to be out of here. All right. Quickly, Nevis Financial Services Regulatory Commission, FSRC. We spoke about it briefly at one point. The Nevis Financial Services Regulatory Commission, FSRC. They're the body that oversees all financial services in Nevis. There are several different types of companies they overlook, offshore banks being one, insurance companies being another one. They license 50-something offshore entities that do a lot of business on Nevis. The last estimate I saw of the value of the offshore sector is approximately 30 to 40% of our GDP. All right, our GDP about 700 million. So 30% of that is 210 million, and 40% is 280 million. So they contribute annually between 210 and 240 million dollars to our GDP here on Nevis. Very, very important sector. The NIA, in the last report I saw on the recording that the Premier made some days ago, said that $16 million was recouped from the offshore sector in 2024. All right, $16 million was made by the government. So it's very important. It's a very important sector. It contributes heavily to our economy, creates a lot of employment opportunities for Nevisians. And so we have to be
protected.
Protected. It has to be protected. Let's take this call before we continue. Good afternoon, on target.
Lord, Mr. Daly?
Yes.
Please excuse me, but you know, I'm following you guys today. You hear? And I'm really charged up. I'm charged up. Because you know what's happening in Nevis? It's happening all over the Caribbean. I don't know how many of you right now following Jamaica politics. Don't get hot. Where the opposition is going to be in government. You know, they're going to put back the opposition there. You hear? And the same policy that NRP brought to Nevis 10 years ago, those are the things I'm hearing Mark Baldwin, the opposition leader, bringing to the people there. Healthcare, land, everything that the NRP brought. Imagine 10 years after, they are just coming with to the people. So it's the same thing they are doing down there to the people. You know, they have a song that says, we are marching on to progress. Time come, they must sound the alarm. And they say they don't care. We don't care what CCM said or what they do. We don't care. Huh? They say they are blood and fire comrades. And they march into victory. You know, so they're going to stamp out and wipe out corruption. Same things that NRP fought for you 10 years ago. They are down there. You all need to follow Jamaica politics right now because opposition is going to take over down there. They're on a rampage down there. You know, things hot down there, tell you. They are the ones that are following. So what they are doing to us here is all over the Caribbean. All the leaders and them that's been in here. 3 terms. Who want to stay in there for 3 terms to take advantage of us. Get rid of corruption, division. Let's get rid of corruption.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, thank you for that call. Very instructive. What's happening in Jamaica? I'm going to follow it for next week's program for sure. So we were talking about the
financial services.
Yeah, the financial services. Very important sector. By Brantley's own figures, $16 million collected from them over 2024 for services, different fees, VAT, service charges, etc., licensing fees. $16 million is a lot of money. It's down a bit from during Paris time, but nonetheless, $16 million is a big chunk of change. So it's a very important sector that must be guarded very carefully to prevent the creep of corruption into it. Now, where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is because the Premier in his February press conference, January press conference, indicated that he wants to reform the FSRC in the sense that he no longer wants NEPA, the Nevis Investment Promotion Agency, to do the advertising and marketing for FSRC. He wants to bring in a director into the marketing aspect, hire a new director into the marketing aspect of FSRC. Fine. But by his own admission, NEPA was doing a fantastic job. The people at NEPA were doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing by creating the space for revenue generation, to bring more businesses to Nevis, to make sure their license and operating are as regulated. But the Premier wants more. He wants total control. And so what he does, he says, we're going to reorganize. We're going to bring in a marketing expert called the director of we call it Nevis Finance. He's going to create a marketing arm, called Nevis Finance. And he's going to employ a director of Nevis Finance. They have pushed back at 4 different times the deadline for applications for the director of Nevis Finance. Right? 4 times. Because the people who, according to them, have been applying are not the ideal. They're not the ideal. So what they're saying to us here on Nevis, nobody on Nevis is qualified to be a director of Nevis Finance. The most important marketing tool that he's trying to create. Nobody here in Nevis is qualified. And all you need is a bachelor's and some years of experience. But nobody here at the full extent of St. Kitts and Nevis, nobody here is qualified. So they're looking for the ideal person. All right? Now, here's my difficulty. They launched Nevis Finance in May. They ain't no website. They ain't got no office. They ain't got no director. But they launched it anyway. Now they're looking for a director. Like I said, they had 4 different deadlines. They moved each one back. The people have been sending in. They're looking at applications. They're not happy who they see coming through. They're not happy at all. They're looking for that one person that they can manipulate and control, because you're dealing with $16 million of potential income to the government and millions of dollars to service providers. All those companies that are doing part of the offshore financial services, they're looking for their piece of action too. And I ask the question, why am I seeing one company, the largest offshore company on Nevis, formerly, you know the name of it? Morningstar Holdings. Why am I seeing Morningstar Holdings, no Trident Trust, doing the HR to hire this new director of finance, Nevis Finance? Why is a private company doing the HR for this critical position called the director of Nevis Finance? How we getting this done? So the government is now farming out its HR work to a private company for them to find who they want to find, knowing the conflict, knowing the unfair competitive advantage it gives Trident Trust over all the other service providers. Because you have to ask yourself, if I, Kelvin Daly, applies through Trident Trust and I'm selected because I was interviewed by Trident Trust, they have given me their tacit approval. You're good enough for us. But who am I going to be allegiant to? The government? FSRC? Daniel Brantley? Or Trident? This is the problem we are facing. We have a government that's lost its way. There's a clear conflict when you're now farming out FSRC position, which is the regulatory commission that deals with making sure these companies toe the line. You're now giving it out to one of the same companies that you're regulating. That's like the fox guarding the chickens. How
normally now
how you get this though?
Normally, you have financial service providers and accounting firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte and Touche, Ernst and Young. Sometimes you'd ask them to find somebody for you, but they're not part of the operations. But you say, okay, let them find somebody for you. But this one here now has. So who hires you, Kel? You would be loyal to?
Listen, Tried and Trust falls under the regulations of FSRC, just like all the other dozens and dozens of service providers and navies.
And they are looking for the regulation.
Let me say that again very slowly. Tried and Trust is a service provider, just like the other service providers and navies. Mm-hmm. All these service providers are regulated by the FSRC. That's number 1 point. All are regulated. How is it that the government cannot go and find, through its own HR, a person to fill the role of the Director of Finance, of Navy's Finance? Why is it being farmed out to a company that you are in turn regulating? How can this make any sense to anybody? Why is it being done? Because when you're the marketing on behalf of FSRC, guess what can happen? You can steer businesses to one provider or another. You can send businesses towards Brantley, who is also a service provider, by the way, Daniel Brantley Associates, one of the biggest providers of service. You have dozens of service providers and navies who are licensed by the government, who are regulated by the government. Why the government choose Trident? What is it we don't know? What is in it for the government? What is in it for Brantley? That you're now relying on a private company to do your legwork for you, knowing that that same person that you're hiring is part of the FSRC network that regulates you. Mm-hmm. I mean, a school child should be able to see that this is an untenable situation. You cannot have this level of conflict where one morning you're regulating me and next minute I'm hiring you. No. They need to change this. They need to withdraw Trident from this whole process. And the caller from St. Kitts, the professor, alluded to something that we need to pay more attention to. These are the kind of things that Brantley and his government have been slipping past us. That's costing us real headaches. These sort of nuanced deals that create chaos for any government coming in after them. And we need to pay attention.
But Kel, the previous company and so on, this thing was never happening. What's going on here now? I mean, this we entered in the offshore financial services since 1984, but you've never heard this kind of conflict. So what's
because the Brantley is transactional. He does not care.
Okay.
Listen, let me tell you this. This is the final word in this. All right? Millions are up for grabs. Millions are up for grabs. Millions. And whoever this director is will have the power to guide where those millions go. Full stop. Let's take this call. Good afternoon, on target. Make it quick, please.
Okay, yeah, quick question. Following up on that lady who just asked that question, isn't there like an act that also allow foreigners to come in and buy lands in big quantities? They wasn't born in Nevis. Is there an act that also allow that? And if there is, can you explain that to educate the people? Thanks.
All right. There's no law that prevents it that I know of. Once you got the money,
cabinet
cabinet will decide
Cabinet will decide.
Cabinet will decide, and if you have a government that has a favorable cabinet, they'll approve.
The alien land holding license is approved by cabinet, and the amount of land is approved by cabinet. All right. So, and cabinet is in a position to say, hey,
nope. Oh yes.
Hey, proceed.
All right, you heard that.
All right.
All right. One more thing before we go. We have the return on the VAT. We got 5 minutes to discuss the VAT. And we were notified by the government that as of July 1st, the VAT is back on. And the timing could not be the worst. The timing could not be worse. We are now moving into this, what we call the consumer society, consumer spending part of the year. The latter part of the year, we have Culture coming up, we have Carnival coming up, we got all the shopping days, blah, 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 Christmas buying, shopping, all that. Things are already tough in the economy. And I was really disappointed that the 4% went back on. And here's the reason why. There's a thing called inflation. Inflation. Now, what is inflation? Inflation is a measure or rate at which the general level of prices of goods and services is increasing, and subsequently the purchasing power of money goes down. So as basically what he's saying is things cost more than they used to cost. That's basically inflation. It can be calculated. You might hear 2% inflation, 3% inflation. What they're saying to you, the prices last week are gone up 3% more than they were this week. So inflation is a measure, an index of how fast prices of goods and services are increasing in the economy, right? This 4% is going to hype inflation. It's going to push it out of whack. You know why? Because the price of goods already in the supermarkets were going through the roof. Week to week to week, the prices are going through the roof. Now, when you come back and add back on another 4% on goods and services, you're now hyper charging inflation. Second contribution to inflation, wages increasing. Right? There was a $70 per week increase as of July 1st on wages. $70 increase.
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage went from $430 to $500. The increase in wages also drives inflation through a mechanism called the wage price spiral. So as you, as an employer, have to pay more for services,
you cut up.
You have to now increase the price of your goods and services to cover that price increase. So what you're doing, the government is giving a pay rise. You now have to buy goods and services at a higher cost. The price keeps going up. You keep trying to catch up, and you keep trying to catch up. That's what's called a spiral. All right? A wage price spiral. This could not have happened at a worse time. The two happening at the same time, where you have an increase in VAT and an increase in salary, you're going to drive inflation through the roof. You're going to drive inflation through the roof. I'm not certain who was advising Dr. Drew on this, because this could not come from any economist. Could not have come from any economist. That timing there is wrong. Dead wrong. If you wanted to give a salary increase, you should not have done it at the same time you're also increasing VAT. You're gonna hypercharge inflation and cause problems for the poor people in this country. All right? Prices are gonna be uncontrollable, already are. You're gonna spending more, you're gonna become poorer. That is a fact. You're gonna have less spending power because of this. The only how this don't happen, if those persons who are those employers who now have to pay the higher rate for minimum wage decide to eat the price and don't pass it on. But we all know that ain't gonna happen. We all know that ain't gonna happen. Last call for the day, because it's now 1 minute to 3. We have to be out of here by 3 o'clock. Good afternoon, you're on target. Good afternoon, you're on target.
That really was a double whammy. It was definitely inflationary, I would.
Mm-hmm. Hello? Hello, caller? Oh, we lost the call. Yeah, if the caller wants to call back, we can entertain you for a minute. It is a double whammy. And these are the kind of things that I wish more divisions and clinicians are made aware of, so that when they engage in conversations, they could get an understanding of why things are the way they are.
You know, Kel, I believe it might be helpful, because in my discussions with people, a lot of people seem to think, boy, a 10% VAT would be reasonable. Mm-hmm. And so I would like to see a study which says, all right, if it stays at 17, this is what we lose. If you come down at 10, this is what it loses, and this is the impact it is likely to have on consumer prices, and so on and so on and so on. I think we have to be a lot more imaginative and so on with these things, because the VAT fix at 17% was high from the start.
Let's try again. Yeah. Good afternoon, Target.
Good afternoon. I want to know what advice the government advise them, like they borrow them and them.
Okay.
And then they take advice from.
Thank you, sir. All right.
So, you know, I think people seem to think a 10% VAT would do the trick, that you could manage at 10%. But of course, you have to look at its impact on the.
Listen, the only person happy the VAT is going back on is Mark Brantley.
Or he gets to collect money from the people in
by the additional 4%, especially this time of year, with the one
season.
He is salivating to get his hands on the additional 4%, because all those transfer fees that used to attract 17%. You know, when you transfer money overseas, you gotta pay VAT on it. Yeah. When you transfer, if you transfer $500,000, you're getting, 4% of that less. So he's very happy. You don't expect him to come out swinging against the increase. Matter of fact, he probably put in pressure on Dr. Drew to carry back the normal rate to 17%. But it is hyperinflationary when you have this double whammy coming at the same time. Dr. Drew should have known better. There's no excuse for not knowing better. He could have left it at the 14% until year end, and rather than chop it at the same time. All right, folks, we're out of here. We have to go. It's already 2 minutes past our welcoming time. So we thank you for joining us. We're going to see you next week, Saturday, with more. Hopefully then I will get more details on the legislation that guided the development of Christoph Harbour. God bless.
You expect to get any information on what is guiding the Nevis development? No.